I am calling to order the 190th meeting of the commission. My name is Elaine Reese. I am sitting in for the chairman. Can I have an approval of the minutes, please?
I move that we approve the minutes of September 18, 2014.
I second.
Thank you very much. The minutes have been approved. I would like a report on the status of audit.
We currently have 5 agencies, 5 audits in progress. The Administration for Children's Services, the Manhattan Borough President, the Office of Collective Bargaining, the Department of Consumer Affairs, and the Department of Cultural Affairs. Today we have 2 agencies that received corrective actions as a result of a discrimination complaint and investigation procedure audit. Those are the Department of Probation and the Department of Human Resources, and they're up for vote.
Okay, may I have a vote on the resolution 2014/781, final determination for the Department of Probation, and on resolution 2014/069, final determination for Human Resources Administration. May I have a vote?
So approved.
I second.
Okay. Both resolutions are approved as submitted. May I have a report on the status of compliance monitoring?
Sure, good morning. So there are 4 agencies, or actually, I'm so sorry. There are 4 agencies which are concluding compliance, have implemented all of the corrective actions and their resolutions for vote, and that is the Brooklyn Community Board, number 6, Small Business Services, Department of Small Business Services, and the Office of City Clerk, and the Financial Information Services Agency.
May I have a vote on resolution 2014/476C-29, 2014/801C-30, 2014/103C-31, and resolution 2014/127C-32.
So approved.
I
One
second.
of those resolutions.
And the compliance monitoring resolutions have been approved.
Okay, so there are 3 agencies that are currently being monitored: the City Council, the Office of Emergency Management, and the Department of Finance. City Council has requested an extension of the monitoring period.
Why?
In order to complete implementation. They've asked for a 2-week extension because they're rolling out a new procedure. They have developed a new discrimination complaint procedure and are completing some of their some training. And then they will have completed compliance.
Judith, is it reasonable to comply with their request?
Yes, it is.
They've been very cooperative.
Yes, good.
Okay. Good. Okay.
So that agency will be ready for the next commission meeting.
And the Office of Emergency Management?
Office of Emergency Management has just initiated.
Oh, so those 2 are just started. The only
Yeah.
extension is the City Council.
That's correct.
Does it require us to vote on anything?
No, it doesn't.
Okay, so this is just a report.
Yes, it is.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
And with your, I guess, with their consent, we grant extensions. So
Yes.
it doesn't require a vote, but with your consent,
Yeah, no, I think we've consented because you've indicated it's reasonable.
Yes, it is.
right?
Okay, I'm ready to hear about the software.
Wait, before we talk about that, I just want to point out that we actually have completed 33 agencies have actually been audited and
Wow.
completed compliance so far
33?
this year.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Right, and we're having more and more agencies complete compliance without even requiring a compliance monitoring period. So I'm really excited about the relationship that we're establishing with agencies. So by the end of the year, we'll have our 35, 36, like around there. And hopefully we will have also implemented this software software program. So we're hoping
It's a lot of work.
that we're done with it. Now, okay, let me tell you a little bit about the audit management software. We're in the implementation stage.
I want
but
to
we're
congratulate
also-
Yeah.
you on being in the implementation stage. The RFP world turned out to be a interesting hell, is the
Yeah.
best term for it to use. And I am glad that you've gotten through it, and I applaud you for having made your way through it. We had to go out twice,
Yeah,
to bid it twice because of some technical administrative faux pas the first time around.
yeah. We're almost there, but we're not. First of all, did the RFP go through? I mean, not the RFP, the order, the purchase order.
Yes.
Remember she told us to hold it back? She called
Oh,
and asked if.
Oh, that, yeah,
Okay.
that was reinstated just in this.
Okay, so, we're at the stage where we're actually testing it, we're doing the implementation and we're customizing it to the EPC. And we're testing it to make sure that it's doing everything that we require.
That you want it to do.
And after that, then it will be finalized.
Good.
So, I kinda underestimated how much work it would be on my part, my specific role in it.
Wow.
Really?
But, yes.
That's unlike you, Sharice.
But I think that with discussing a lot of what we needed with the vendor, we found ways to incorporate what the EPC needs for the program. And so, we did some training with the staff and they received it well. So I think, people are gonna be able to grasp it. I would have liked for it to be a little more user-friendly, but I think we'll have to do some training on this end. In terms of the compliance part, I think that's probably one of the best parts of the program. Would you agree?
It has a tracking system.
Right, it has a tracking system and it sends an email to the agency with a link, and the link brings them into their specific part of the process and to the corrective actions that need to be implemented, and they can upload documents. So that's what we really wanted, and that's one of the best
That
parts.
sounds great.
Right. Everything else is, I guess I can kind of describe, I was describing it earlier, but I guess I can kind of describe the audit in a nutshell by saying there's two tabs. The standards that the commission voted on is on one section, so the analysts will be guided by the standard, and then the other section is where they actually put their work in, and they attach the work papers that shows that the agency has enforced the standard, and they also link the work papers to the standard, so you would be able to click and see exactly where the analyst made their finding and what document it came from and exactly that portion of the document. So that's gonna be tremendous for us in terms of record keeping. So I'm excited about it. It took a lot to get us to be able to create those links and everything, but I think we're gonna do really well.
I would ask that once you've figured out implementation and gotten there, that you create a session for us, or one of our
Right.
meetings, show it to us, and essentially show it to the world at the same time, because we can use this mechanism to really show people what we've done to, if you will, electrify or data, using the data so that people can be aware of what the status is of employment protection within the city.
It's a good idea.
Because once you put the records on here, people ought to be able to access them. Since all we're talking about is numbers and not names, so we're not talking about
Well, it's
privacy issues.
it's not a public facing program.
So so the public can't get it that way, they still have to do
FOIL.
FOIL, okay,
But we
But
do
they-
we will continue to make the audits available on the website.
okay.
But it's
The
still-
resolutions and,
But it's still an incredible innovation.
Sure
So it
is.
should be a
Thanks.
Wow.
But we should use this medium of at least letting the world know that this is a next step in what we can do.
Right.
So probably January or February.
Hopefully before then.
Well,
Hopefully by
it's,
December.
yeah, but if you've got November, December, I don't think you're gonna be ready to do it in a meeting form until January or February.
Yeah, possibly.
Okay.
Sounds great.
We also have to put together sort of a manual for the agencies, like a user manual.
Yeah,
It'll probably only be about 2 to 3 pages, but it will explain their role in going
they're
into
putting the data input.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
they've got, yeah.
So we're
because-
working on that, I'm working on a sort of a user guide for in here, for the
Yeah.
analysts. So there's different pieces to it that, like I said,
Well, it's not just plug in
right.
and start. Well, it never is. It never is.
But the thing that I like the most is that we can assign various risks to agencies based on unutilization, discrimination complaints, maybe if they have accessibility issues. But that data is stored in the system. There's also a component that lets the analysts recommend that we go back to the agency in 2 years or 3 years or less than 4 years. If there's an issue that maybe they had some problems with and maybe it was training and we weren't sure that the training was done, we can go back in less than a year. There's a little recommendation, but it's all in the risk assessment that we can do for agencies, and then we can pull agencies by risk.
I would suggest that one of the risks you want to look at is culture. That things like the fire department are really a cultural issue as well as everything else.
Well, the risks have to be measured.
Yes, it's
Right.
Right, so we have to assign measurements, and I'm not sure how,
You do it with a word like
right, we
culture.
would be able to measure culture, but unutilization and discrimination complaints, they're actually tied to data
Yeah,
that we can, use to measure how well the agency is doing.
you might find a metric for culture. It may has a different
We'll talk
word.
about that.
Another one.
We'll talk about
You might
that.
be able to find a metric for it. Anyway,
I
under
just
new
have-
business,
I
I'm
just have
gonna
a quick- I
raise,
just have a quick question about the vendor. So you're
Yeah.
saying that you're responsible for developing mini manuals for your end user, for your staff. Is the vendor taking any part in helping to create any of
The
that?
vendor gave us sort of a template,
yeah,
right, that we would have to customize. That's the extent of their role in it.
yeah, because she's
They provided
customizing
it.
it.
Yeah, they provided a template because it's really a financial audit management software that we're customizing to our audits.
Right.
It's very
And most of the
hard
customization,
to,
most of the customization is being done by you all rather than by the vendor?
it's being done by the vendor, but the vendor requires a tremendous amount of guidance on how
Yeah,
to.
of course,
Right.
yeah.
It's kind of like we have to build a crosswalk between what we do and what that system does, and we have to build a connection saying, okay, in their world, this issue means this for us.
Mm-hmm,
So that's a lot of what we're doing.
right,
It's very hard,
sure.
but I think we've been able to do it. We've been,
And Dewitt's role
We
in
actually
there is,
sat here-
is Dewitt the translator?
the program manager is a Dewitt employee. So she's actually participated and sat with us. We were in this room for about a week.
Well,
Me and
I'm using the
vendor.
term translator, so between your crossing the bridge, between what they have and you have, someone has to refine it in the middle.
No,
Is
that's
that-
me.
Okay, so what, Dewitt's role is just holding hands?
I think Dewitt's role is more of a facilitator of the process, but the only people that fully know what we do is us. So,
But and the people on the other side fully know what the system can do. So you know what you do, and they know what the system can do. And Dewitt's sitting there to make sure that you're speaking to each other.
Well, do it created the platform for the EPC's computer system to be able to take on the software. And they
Okay,
configured our computers and installed the licenses. So DeWitt did the
The
mechanics.
technical,
Yeah.
Technicals.
right,
okay.
but
I
in
was trying to
terms
understand,
of,
I'm sorry.
in terms of the meeting of the minds, it's just us sitting in a room figuring
Mhm.
out how the pieces of the puzzle connect, pretty much. And that's me wrapping my brain around something and then saying, okay, how does this apply? Okay, so for us, this is what this means. There's a lot of that going on.
Okay,
But it's been
It's
productive,
very working.
yeah.
well,
Everything that we
I
pretty
think
much.
it's pretty productive because it forces you to do an analytical assessment of what you do and how you do it.
Right. And a lot of what we were doing was done manually, or somehow we have written instructions pretty much for almost everything that we do anyway. So it's just providing them sort of the instructions that we give the analyst, and then having them understand what the analyst's role is, what my specific role is, if there's an approver, what the approver's role is. So for every aspect, there's a reviewer, what's the role of the person that gets approved? There's the analyst and then the approver.
Mhm.
So every step, every standard, every recommendation, every corrective action gets done by the analyst, and the approver has to approve it. And that's where the links came in, so we suggested that they put in the links to the documents so that we can be able to see what document the corrective action came from, and
Right.
so we'll go through it, and I think it'll make a lot more sense when you guys can actually see what we do, but I'm excited
Can
about it.
our computers be fit with the program, or does it make any sense for us to have it on it, our computers,
We would have to buy a license,
for us?
Oh.
Okay,
right, we
Okay.
only have 10 licenses.
okay, all right. It was
Yeah.
just a question as to whether or not it would be useful or efficient, but it probably is not.
Yeah,
Can we talk about new business for a second, because I just want to be up to date on when we're planning our public meeting, what steps we're taking with it, and where we are.
Oh, sign?
so the last meeting, we said that that's the information. That the hearing would take place in the spring.
I'll take yours, I've got one,
The spring of 2015,
right.
and do you wanna speak on record about the
Well,
suggestion?
part of when I attended an event last evening, it was a reception for Ken Standard's Lifetime Commitment to Diversity, and there were several speakers there. I'm certain that Mr. Standard would be more than willing to speak, and I'm fairly certain that Michelle Coleman Mays would be willing to speak, and each of them separately have lived the experience of diversity and have crossed the hurdles of having been minority members in a period of time when the laws were not as helpful as they are today in protecting minority interests. One of the things that was spoken about by Judge Crozera last evening was Ken Standard's own attempt as a kid out of Bedford-Stuyvesant, going to Boys High, trying to get the Naval ROTC to pay for his Harvard education in college, and how he passed all the tests and he went through and they wrote down that he was Caucasian, which he is not. And when he went forward to the interview, they crossed out that he was Caucasian or Negro, and he never heard back from them. That he then, as to law school, attempted to do the same thing with the then Coast Guard ROTC, passed all the exams and they never called.
Wow.
That would not happen today, and that he would have been in the force today. Now that we're talking about the 1950s, but we have to remember that our armed services were not integrated through World War II. It was President Truman that was the first integration of our armed services. There were Negro battalions and white battalions, and that, so we're in a different world, but I think that they would be good speakers on diversity and the change of the law, because they've lived through it, as I've lived through it, as Commissioner Cabrera has lived through it. I mean, we lived in a world where there were female entrances to the clubs, and one of the stories was how Mr. Stannard, as president of the Harvard Club, got rid of the women's entrance. I remember the women's entrance and having to go through the women's entrance and go to the women's dining room. You couldn't be seen any other place in the Harvard Club, even though Radcliffe and Harvard College had been having co-ed courses for a long time. It's not until the 1970s that those barriers are broken down. So, and what Ken said last night was there are still a whole lot of barriers and a whole lot of things that need to be altered, both for women and for people of color. So, that was, we can call on him to speak if that's something we want to do. After you do your research and find out what the HR people throughout the city want to hear, and we put together a program, I'm perfectly willing to call on Ken and Michelle, who's currently the general counsel of the New York City Public Library, to come and talk.
Sounds like the right
So the timeline, I'm thinking, would be that we would do the polls of the HR and EU people in the beginning of December. And then we would do some data analysis and prepare for the hearing to be sometime at the end of the first quarter, which would be around March. April. So let's I guess use that as a sort of a tentative timeline.
Okay. So you would send out your survey in January, in December, and then we
Beginning
would,
of December.
beginning of December, and then we'll talk about doing this in March. And I'll just, I told Ken I was gonna call him and have lunch with him anyway, and why don't I just talk to him about it and see what dates would work for him.
Okay.
He is currently head of an ABA committee. He's been New York City, but anyway, I'll find out. I'll get some dates.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay, any other business? I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
I so